an Irish bar. Walking along Charlestown, wishing you were in Banner Strand, holding your nephew's hands. We walked along the waterfront, up Bunker, down on Main. We met at the monument, where everyone knew our names. Our first kiss on 40 flights, our friends on the stoop on summer nights. The church door was always open as the bells rang out for you and me, for all to see on our wedding day. There's an immigrant soul under southern...
Good evening. Welcome to Charlestown Live. I'm Billy Boyle, your host for this evening's program. First, I'd like to thank our partner, Chad, Charlestown Against Drugs, and our sponsor, Partners Healthcare, including the Mass General Hospital, the Mass General Institute of Health Professionals, the Spalding Rehab at the Navy Yard, and the MGHR program. Without their help, we couldn't bring you this program. Due to a little throat problems tonight, I'm going to let my guest, who used to be a host here, our state rep's going to do the announcements of the upcoming events, so he can give me a break because he told me I talk too much anyway. So with that, I'm going to my state rep, our state rep, Dan Ryan's going to do a couple announcements for us.
Okay, thank you, Billy. I need my glasses now. I don't know if I wore these when I was a host, but thank you and good luck with your little cold there. And so from now until the end of the year, Charlestown Live will be urging our viewers and guests to donate to the Harvest on Vine Food Pantry. Harvest on Vine serves a great need. They're currently serving over 700 families in Charlestown, help them put hot food on the table and meals, and especially through the holidays. Is always a big time of year for Harvest on Vine. If you want to bring any non-perishable food items to their drop-off sites at the Charlestown Cooperative Bank, 201 Main Street, and the Food Pantry at 49 Vine Street, or the Parish Center at 46 Winthrop Street. At this point, they are collecting canned soup, stew, chowder, and instant packages of soup or noodles. Of course, any food items are good and will be greatly accepted. And I also know from having Tom McDonald on the show, big bags of rice are always good too. They can help stretch meals through the week. So, other announcements, this coming Saturday on November 22nd at 1:30 at Charlestown High School out on the field. We're going to have the second annual Turkey Trot, Charlestown Against Drugs second annual Turkey Trot, which will be some races for kids and adults too, grown-ups too, with face painting, a bouncy house, and some other activities to help celebrate the harvest in November and going into Thanksgiving. The rain date is Sunday. And also check out, Bunker Hill Florist has moved to its new location at 213 Main Street.
Grand opening this week.
Grand opening is this week on...
Weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. So go by and visit Joe down there at Bunker Hill Florist. He's been in the neighborhood 30 years, I think, and I delivered flowers for him back when I got out of high school. I delivered for Joe for 2 years. So he employs a lot of good Charlestown residents and has a great shop down there. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Danny. That saves me doing a little talking tonight. As you know, this show has been planned for a month, so Danny knew he was coming on. And we must acknowledge that Charlestown was rocked the past couple of weeks by a tremendous unexplained tragedy. As you know, we lost 17-year-old Ryan Morrissey to a tragic shooting November 8th. Our hearts and prayers go out to the family and friends as we all continue to cope with this loss. You know, one of Peter Looney's goals behind this inception of this program, BNN Charlestown Live, is to use this forum to highlight positive things going on in Charlestown. Peter always felt that news media only portrayed the negative things that take place. I don't know if there's a proper way to have a positive discussion when our hearts are so heavy, but there is a solace in knowing how well Charlestown pulls together in times of crisis. Dan, maybe you can talk a little about some of the positive experience we've witnessed during the community in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you put it well, Bill, and that was Peter's goal of this program, was to shine a positive light on the community where too often, and it's not just Charlestown, but any community or any news, it's the bad things that make the front page. And fortunately or unfortunately, I think the incidents in the past 2 weeks, Charlestown has responded to similar tragedies in the past. I think this one was really hit Charlestown differently, where it was a brazen attack at 9:30 at night, an innocent bystander really, which was a lot different. But in terms of the follow-up from that and the days afterwards, when Ryan's friends and family were most vulnerable, I think, as in the past, you always see the best of Charlestown come out. I think the services that were available, the next morning, I got calls, right away, first thing in the morning, the two Sals called me, Sal Lamartina, Sal Di Domenico. I talked to the mayor by 11 o'clock, what can we do? And, this is the first time I've had to respond to something like this as a state representative. I've been there as a football coach in various incidences, father, brother, son. And first time I had to be there for my community as an elected official. And I was kind of happy to find out I really didn't have to do much. The town knows how to take care of itself. And the city made the public health services that they have available. The Boys and Girls Club was open, I think, every night till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. On Sunday, when the tragic news come by that Ryan had finally lost his fight, there's kids hanging on Main Street with nothing to do. And within a half hour, the Boys Club was open, and people had a place to just sit and kind of just look at each other. But it was a comfortable, nurturing place to be, rather than hanging on the street corner, wondering what do we do next. And Charleston's been able to do that before. The grief counselors were in place. We had social workers in place, and that's, it's not so much protecting people from the next violent act. It's protecting people. Ayanna Presley mentioned it the other night, that the trauma services that are available through the city and through the mayor's office. It's helping people deal with this thing 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, 6 years from now. These kids are, have to get through and move on with life in the healthiest way possible. I think Mass General Hospital responds to this stuff through CSAC, the Substance Abuse Prevention organization. Sheena Lundeen was, the lacrosse center was open, the Boys and Girls Club, all the folks that were there, Al Carrier with the hockey team. The response there to protect our kids, I thought, was there as it always has been. And I think sometimes we lose sight of those things because it's stuff you don't want publicized.
No, I think the whole problem was that, and you're right, because we were discussing this coming over. We had to announce, we had to bring it up because we know the people in the town. It was a long 10 days. I mean,
yeah.
God rest Ryan. He laid there for a few days and he gave it a good fight. And I think the prolongedness only agitated some of the situations. But I think the city handled well. Charlestown, I was amazed. I don't know why I am. I've always said Charlestown's a unique town, but I was with Danny a couple of nights. We walked around. The rainy night, we met on Main Street, and they were bouncing around, shaking hands. But the outpouring of people at the church, the funeral, I've never seen.
Yeah. And I think that the stories, too, that come out of that, unfortunately, Saturday night, I was working at Warren Tavern, because despite what Howie Carr says, the public sector is not full of rich people. But I was following on Facebook and through text messages, our kids who were in the state tournament anyway. They had qualified for the state tournament. The girls had played Thursday night. They had won a game and moved on. I think they played, Friday. Then Harry Sullivan's team, which Ryan was a member of, these kids were grieving. They laid a friend to rest on Friday afternoon, and they went out. Yeah, nobody would have questioned them if they decided to go home and roll up on the couch and just take the weekend off. But they went out and they played. They won a game in overtime, a shootout. Won 2 games on Saturday. Eventually, they finally succumbed to, I think, Stoneham on Sunday. And Charlestown's always been up against it in those tournaments because we're a small little neighborhood going against entire cities and towns. But, that doesn't highlight just the bravery of those kids that weekend, but that's what our kids are doing every weekend. I mean, that was a Friday night game scheduled regardless.
Yeah.
And the girls did that. Of course, we've heard the stories of Malden Catholic football, won 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
St. Clemens football team won on Sunday, and we all know Ryan was a big part of the St. Clemens family. There's so much positive to come out of this that hopefully will as our memories go down through the years, we remember that stuff too.
I just want to kick one little thing in there about Malden Catholic. We got a call earlier, Danny and I, and we had forgot that Nolan Charbonnier was a very good friend of Ryan, and him and Colin Sullivan play for Malden Catholic, and I guess that night Nolan went into the hospital when Ryan was in a coma, but he whispered to him, "We're going to beat Cambridge, Rindge, and Latin." Well, I guess they pulled it out in the last 30 seconds or so, and the 2 boys that pulled it out were the Townies,
Colin was the quarterback. Colin Sullivan threw it to Nolan.
And
Mike Lynch did a high five on that at Channel 5 tonight. It was
supposed to be on Channel 5 tonight at 6:25 in honor. And they honored Ryan at the game, which is good.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it's a positive. We got things out of it. There was negatives, but the town responded. Now, I'd like to get on. We hadn't planned, Danny had planned to come on and talk about his legislation. He's in office now for 2 years instead of 7 months. And I wanted to ask him, how was the first 7 months first before we get into anything else about your new programs and stuff?
It's been a long year, Bill.
Yeah.
It's been a real long year. I think I was on right after I had gotten elected the first time. But now, as of November 4th, I have my own 2-year term. And so now I have to really start thinking about, the committees that I'm on now, they just assigned to me. That was just, here's the open seat, you go sit here. So now there's a whole sort of plan where you try to find out if there's room on a committee that you might want. Other than the ones I'm on.
By the way, this is a live call-in show. I forgot. 617-708-3290. I'm going to let Danny do the talking because I'm losing my voice. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So now, so it's kind of a refocus now. I've been in sort of election mode right up until November 4th, and now I got to sit down. I got a couple of months to really think of the government aspects of this. What I want to do for Charlestown and Chelsea moving forward. What are the best committees? Is there any legislation that I think I could propose that can, help these communities statewide too? I think the election results, I know we wanted to, when we originally planned for me to be on was to talk about the elections. You want me to just keep talking and save your throat?
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, we're lucky that day. We had 2 townies got elected the same day.
Exactly. And so we go from, the age-old story of Charlestown not having an elected official for 37 years. And now we have 2. Attorney General Maura Haley will be sworn in January.
Yep.
The most dynamic candidate on the ballot this year.
She was fantastic. Lady, boy, I'll tell you.
And that's a big plus for us. I mean, I think some of the issues we were dealing with earlier, the Attorney General's office has a lot to do with that. And Martha Coakley was a great Attorney General on a lot of these issues. Maura had worked in her office, so she knows the job already. And it's issues that, it's guns and violence, but it's also economic fairness. So the Attorney General deals with a lot of that, taking businesses on and making sure they're doing the right thing to make sure our economy's helping everybody. And it's incredible to have 2 of us now walking into my first term, my own term, and Attorney General will be sworn in. I don't know if we get sworn in the same day or what, but
it's nice. I mean, we see the 2 years around the town. She's a fixture. You're a fixture. Yeah. You're down. You're down at coffee shops. They're in CVS. They're down Store 24. I mean, it's not. and you are what you are. You're townies, the two of you,
Yeah.
so. And,
So a funny story too, interesting point. I didn't know this until we actually, nor Mara nor myself know this, and Kathy Lynch had actually figured it out. My mother had worked at the EPA. One of the men that was her immediate boss for about 10 years was a gentleman named Jerry Haley, who I knew by name. I had met him a few times, and Kathy Lynch put the two together. That was Mara Haley's dad. Wow. They worked together at the EPA 20 years ago for 10 years. Neither one of us had made the connection. So it's a nice little connection there. Yeah.
Well, we got to find out how you're going to get along with the governor now, Charlie Baker. That's a question I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think we'll be fine. I think everything that people say about him is right. I think he's a good guy. I've met him a few times. He was actually, right after I got sworn, right after I won the special election in March, we had the St. Patrick's Day dinner. That's who I was seated next to. It was my first public appearance after the election. I was more afraid of getting mustard on my tie from the corned beef than anything. So yeah. So I didn't interact with him that much. I did see him at the Bunker Hill Parade. He's a nice guy, like people say. He is a Republican that if we had more of them across the country, I don't think our national politics would be in the mess that it's in. You know, I was a Martha Coakley supporter for a whole bunch of different reasons. She's a good attorney general, would have been a good governor. But, you know, the Charlie Baker type of Republican is what Massachusetts has had. Those Republicans for 100 years. You know, they were the first progressives. They were the ones that thought business and government could work together to improve people's lives. And you know, we'll see. But you know, I don't think it will. You know, I'm not looking to butt heads. I think we'll get along fine. One other thing that was very important, very important to Charlestown and to Chelsea, the first appointment he made was Secretary of Economic Development. It was Jay Ash, who was the current city manager in Chelsea, who, I mean, he probably knows more people in Charlestown than I do. He worked for Richie Vogt for the longest time. He kept all those connections. He knows Charlestown well, and that's going to bode well for us also. I mean, and that's economic development. I mean, that's a position, especially you got a casino coming in, and we have all the waterfront that's still under development. It's nice to have Jay Ash in that position going forward.
Well, that was going to be my next thing. I figured people are sitting out there waiting. The casino bill, it flew by. We knew it was because we're isolated, Charlestown. We could have had 100% votes. We were still going to get buried. But what do you see in the future, working with the city and the commission now on how Charlestown stands with this racing? The Everett Casino.
The Everett, you know, it is, you know, while I was campaigning, you know, my campaign started around January 6th. That's when it was first announced that Gene was stepping down. And the whole casino issue changed so much in that 9 months, who was in arbitration, who wasn't in arbitration. And I never could quite formulate an opinion on it until I started to realize as things, and I had mentioned this in the Chelsea newspaper, as things began to unfold, I started to realize I've probably been the most consistent person in this issue in that, look, I'm not against casinos, I never was. I didn't change my mind because one got awarded a mile from my house. There's no elected official in the Commonwealth that's gonna live closer to a casino than me. So I didn't change my mind. I just stayed sort of where I always was I see the benefit in it. I get it. It's very close to Charleston that's already impacted with a lot of regional traffic. I get all that. But I also look at it as maybe an answer to all those questions. You know, $75 to $100 million from a private developer for Sullivan Square, you're not going to get that in any other development. You're just not going to get it. So, you know, my thought was to focus on the positive pieces. If it comes this way, be ready to make it work. And, you know, there are 4,000 jobs, a lot of construction jobs. That'll go a lot away in Charleston, places like Mishawam, in Newtown, and the BHA housing projects, where people are out of work and looking for work.
Well, it's not going to go away. It's there. I mean, there's nothing we can do. And The only thing that can happen is if they prolong it and wind gives up, but, you know, the inevitable is there, I guess, down the road.
The other interesting piece on that too, and I try to get it into the newspaper a little bit, the question one, which means the legislation that was there got repealed and lost. Question 3 was the casino one. Question 1 was the gas tax indexing.
Yeah.
With that going out, and there's additional gas taxes, now I don't know what we'll do next year to bring that back. There was gonna be even less money for Rutherford Avenue and Sullivan Square. So, you know, that makes the casino money, I'm not saying good or bad for the casino, but the money we're getting for that casino is even more important, because there's gonna be less money for the state to spend on our roads and bridges.
I know you had a bill you were involved in.
Oh, yes, a bill for, it's a home rule petition, so it's nothing, none of my genius created that. It was, the city council had put together a bill with the mayor. Sean Getchell kind of helped me get it up and through. And I did it as a favor to the mayor and to the city council. It's one of these things where the state is still overseeing parts of what Boston does. It's an old thing from 100 years ago when the Yankees didn't trust the Irish and Italians to run the city. But this bill will allow the city of Boston a more streamlined way to accept private funds to do things like the duck boat parades when we win a world championship. You know, hopefully maybe after the Super Bowl, my bill will come in effect. And it's just an easier way to streamline it in a more transparent way for the city to quickly put together a special event like that.
Well, that's pretty good. I was thrilled. I heard Danny, I said, yeah, the state rep finally get in on a bill that's gonna pass. And I said, well, you know, now he's in. Now he knows what it's all about up there. Plus, you're not the rookie bookie no more.
I'm not the rookie anymore. I think it's one of those ones that just get voice voted through anyway.
Yeah.
But it will look good in the press release, yeah.
It must have been a tough, I don't know how Kara and the kids are getting used to your hours now, but
It's tough. I mean, it's a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, a lot of the stuff, like campaigning, I can bring them with me for a lot of stuff, but I also have a lot more flexibility to my schedule, which is good. You know, I loved working for Mike Capuano. I did a lot of night meetings for him too, but I also had to be in the office all the time.
yeah.
Now I get Sean chained to the desk. He can stay at the office. But no, there's a lot more flexibility because, you know, I'm not the guy always taking the phone calls or answering the emails.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we keep Sean going. Yeah, that we do. We just got the 2-minute warning, a little under now. I just want to say anything you'd like to wrap up, Dan, anything you'd like to say personally, as you as the legislator now, what you got future plans, just hang it in, do your job. And
Yeah, you know, right now, the stuff we talked about at the beginning of the show, it's fortunately for me, I think it's stuff that was my experience working up the Boys and Girls Club and doing community and public safety and public health. You know, Charlestown, I want to thank the commissioner and the police department for doing their meeting on Tuesday night. It was a regularly scheduled meeting that, you know, they come out and they were very candid about what the police were doing in Charlestown. And I know going into that meeting that there was going to be more steps needed going forward after that meeting. And so that's not anything I planned on doing in these next few months, but that's going to take up an awful lot of my time, is making sure Charlestown is able to set itself up to minimize any future events.
As usual, Dan, I really appreciate having you on. It's always good. The time flies by. Now I have to call you state rep now. I can't call you Danny. I'm not telling. Thanks.
Only whatever you want.
And before I say goodnight, I just want to thank Charlestown again and thank all the young kids. Remember, time heals. You know, stay busy. And remember the family, the Morrissey family, and respect everybody. Remember, Charlestown, I always say, respect one another. Good night, Charlestown, and God bless Charlestown.